guns and get respect up on the street.
What's up, peeps? Welcome to another Thursday Night Football edition of the Fantasy Nerds. The song you heard coming into the show was The Ultimate by Denzel Curry. And when I think of the New England Patriots, they're the ultimate team. But they are the ultimate when they have Tom Brady. And the biggest thing about this Thursday Night Football game is the backup who's been replacing Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, listed as doubtful with he's having some issues with his AC joint in his throwing shoulder. So he's listed as doubtful. And the big question is going to be, can rookie quarterback Jacoby Brissett lead this team against a pretty good Houston defense? Now, I went over what he did in week 2 against the Dolphins when he came in. He came in late in the second quarter. Over about 2 and some change quarters, he went 6 for 9, had 92 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, got sacked twice. So he didn't really help the game. He was just managing it, and they really had to hold on to really try and beat the Dolphins because the Dolphins got back in it. He had 6 drives. He had 1 touchdown when they came back from halftime, but that was a rushing touchdown by LeGarrette Blount. There was a field goal, a missed field goal, and then 3 punts. So he seems like a game manager, but with a little bit of practice and he gets a little bit more experience coming into this game. He's even still, it's gonna be so tough for him, especially with the short week. If there's one guy that I would point at that might still be okay for this game, it would be Martellus Bennett. It looked like of all his throws, Martellus Bennett seemed like the guy who he would always connect with. So Martellus Bennett probably still gonna have a good game unless Rob Gronkowski is gonna play, which it's gonna be a game time decision. If Gronk is out there, who knows? Maybe they're not gonna play him his full snap set this week. Maybe they'll ease him in with the emergence of Martellus Bennett last week. But I do think you're going to see a lot of running back LeGarrette Blount. I think you saw in the drives that he had in the Dolphins that with no Garoppolo, no Brady, they're not just gonna give it to a rookie quarterback to say go out and win us this game. I think they're gonna rely heavily on their running game and then hope that if whenever they do call some passes for Brissett, that he can at least get them down the field. But I think you're gonna see a lot of LeGarrette Blount. I wouldn't be surprised if he got over 100 yards, got a touchdown. I think you'll probably see a little bit of the change of pace running back James White mixed in on passing downs, but I don't expect him to make much of an impact in this week's game. For the wide receivers, I don't really like Julian Edelman, but I think he's at best a flex play just because he is the number 1 wide receiver. He's still got value, and there's always the chance that he could come in and make a big difference in this game. As for the other wide receivers on the team, Chris Hogan, who I've talked a bunch about on this podcast, and I think he's going to be a big benefactor when Tom Brady comes back. But him and Danny Amendola, both of them are just complete toss-ups, and it's hard to predict if they're going to get a touchdown, which is where the majority of their value is going to come. So I would really stay away from both of those guys. And as I said before, it's going to be a game-time decision for Rob Gronkowski, so just watch that. And definitely if he plays, you got to think that it's going to affect Martellus Bennett just a little bit. Even if Brissett is really comfortable with him, they're going to want to try and get the ball to Rob Gronkowski. On the other side, with the Houston Texans, they're coming into this. Both of these teams are 2-0, and they're fighting to stay undefeated this early in the season. Brock Osweiler could have a pretty decent game here. The New England Patriots defense has done really well against the run so far. They kind of bottled up David Johnson in the first game. They were able to stifle Arian Foster and Jay Ajayi or whoever the Dolphins could throw at them. They had to pass a bunch to get back in that game. But they've given up a bunch of yards passing to Carson Palmer and Ryan Tannehill. And I really wouldn't be surprised if Osweiler comes into this game and gets anywhere upwards of 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I would definitely couple that that he's probably going to have at least one turnover, if not multiple, because they still have really good defensive backs on the Patriots. Osweiler's still, I think, going to have a pretty good game. And as I said about the Pats passing defense, the New England run defense they've done pretty well bottling up running backs. So Lamar Miller could struggle in this game. But what I will say about the Houston Texans offense is that they have stuck with the run in both of their first 2 games. And Lamar Miller has gotten at least 25 carries in both of those games, and he's gotten over 80 yards. So if the Houston Texans could somehow get a lead in this game, I definitely think Lamar Miller will get a bunch of carries, and he probably sees upwards of 80 yards, and maybe he can finally break through and get that touchdown. And then at wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller have both really started out the season. They've been 2 of the best receivers in the game and 2 of the most dependable, at least through 2 weeks. So both of those guys really merit starting. And beyond them, none of them, I don't think, have any more than 6 receptions. So Hopkins, Fuller definitely starts. Everybody else, I would just leave them on your bench. But that about wraps up this. I think New England probably still, I don't know. My gut tells me New England's going to win this game. But I also think Houston, with a rookie quarterback, they're going to struggle. So I think Houston Texans might actually go into New England and win this game. So that's my prediction. I think the Houston Texans are going to have, their guys are going to have some pretty good fantasy days. They're not going to be blowing everybody out of the water, but it's going to be solid for you fantasy players. And then on the New England side, LeGarrette Blount is the one guy that I really feel confident will be a solid. Martellus Bennett, maybe if Rob Gronkowski's out. Everybody else I have a sour feeling about, and I'm not sure if I want to play them or trust them. So that wraps up this Thursday night football edition of Fantasy Nerds. I'll be back tomorrow with the full Fantasy Nerds. We'll break down this week's matchups, and I'll give you my starts and sits, and I'll break down all the injuries that happened in week 2. And last week was really just a week where it made you feel, why do I ever play fantasy football? And I'll try and talk you off the ledge. But until tomorrow, I am Jason Jarvie. Peace.
Politics, bitch, I'm ultimate. Ultimate. Bitch, I am the one, the way your son don't need a gun to get respect up on the street. Under the sun, the best, the sun will pop the clock to feed himself and family.